when he was alive, they killed somewhere between 50 and 60 million people.
Jeez.
Yeah, like 10% of the world's population. Yeah, like 1 out of 10 people on Earth was killed by the Mongols.
In a world full of life-threatening challenges and fierce battles, was a man who, against all odds, rose from being a victim of other people's brutality to becoming the most feared and bravest man in the history of mankind. We're talking of none other than Genghis Khan. In a world full of life-threatening challenges and fierce battles, was a man who, against all odds, rose from being a victim of other people's brutality to becoming the most feared and bravest man in the history of mankind. We're talking of none other than Genghis Khan. While the story and life of Genghis Khan might be known to you, there are still many things about him that are weird and most people don't know. Want to know more about this man who made even the bravest warrior's knees wobble in fear? Sit still as we uncover weird things about the extraordinary Mongolian legend. Number 15. Genghis Khan's most brutal conquest. One of Genghis Khan's most significant battles was in the early 13th century against the Khwarezmian Empire, led by Shah Ala ad-Din Muhammad II, also known as Muhammad II. The Khwarezmian Empire, which covered parts of Central Asia and Persia, was a powerful state under Shah Muhammad II's rule. Tensions between the Mongols and the Khwarezmids escalated due to a series of events. In 1218, Genghis Khan sent a diplomatic mission to establish friendly relations and secure trade routes. Unfortunately, the governor of Otrar, Inalchuq, mistreated the Mongol envoys and even executed some of them. This act got Genghis Khan so angry that he reported the matter to Shah Muhammad II, demanding justice, but instead of punishing Inalchuq as requested, the Shah decided to stand by his governor. This refusal to address the issue diplomatically and the execution of the Mongol envoys only fueled Genghis's thirst for revenge. So in 1219, Genghis Khan assembled his forces and launched a full-scale invasion of the Khwarezmian Empire. The Mongol army, known for its exceptional organization, discipline, and diverse warfare skills, caught many opponents off guard. The conflict proved challenging, though, as Shah Muhammad II adopted guerrilla warfare strategies that prolonged the battle, making it difficult for the Mongols. Despite this, Genghis Khan adjusted his strategies by attacking supply lines and strongholds. The city was conquered. One of the most pivotal moments in this conflict happened during the siege of Urgench, a prosperous city and a key stronghold of the Khwarezmian Empire in 1221. Number 14. Khan's weaponized psychology. Genghis Khan was not just a physical warrior, he knew how to wage psychological warfare as well, and it played a significant role in his victories. One of his tactics was to capture enemy soldiers and present them with a difficult choice to either give up or switch sides. If they agreed to switch sides, the Mongols would be sent to the front lines and forced to fight against their own families and friends. Do you know how demoralizing that could be? To make it clearer, imagine going to war only to see people you were trained together with at the combat camp. We're talking of someone who knows every move you will make, perhaps who was best in tactical fighting, fighting for the opponent against you. Khan was a devil. One of the main reasons behind the practice used by Khan was that by incorporating captured soldiers into his army and making them fight against their former comrades, his enemies would be scared, confused, and demoralized, as seeing this would make them feel betrayed and even weaken their determination to resist. Of course, this tactic was effective as it caused confusion in the enemy's camp and further provided the Mongols with valuable intelligence about their opponents, helping them prepare for future battles. Number 13. The use of molten silver for torture. Genghis Khan sure had a unique method of torturing his enemies in ways that would send unspoken messages of his brutality to every corner of the world. One such method was the use of molten silver, which originated during 1206 to 1227 AD. According to historical accounts, whenever he and his army captured enemies during war, the captives would have the molten silver poured into their wounds, onto their bodies, eyes, or even into their ears. Needless saying how excruciating that can be. One of the most vivid descriptions of this brutal punishment comes from the writings of Ibn Jubayr, an Arab traveler and historian, where he recounts the horrors of the Mongol invasion of Baghdad in 1258 AD and mentions how they melted silver and poured it into the wounds of their captives. He also did the same to the governor of the kingdom of Otrar when he invaded after 5 long months of resistance. Number 12. Genghis Khan's brutality. Genghis Khan was one of the most feared and formidable leaders in history, renowned for his military might and conquests. When it came to warfare, he didn't hold back. In fact, he had a reputation for being merciless and brutal towards those who dared to oppose him. During the siege of Nishapur in 1221, after successfully capturing the city, Genghis Khan gave the order to execute every single person living there. No one was to be left alive, not even animals. And just as he instructed, all 1.7 million of the total population of the land were wiped out completely. Then came another gruesome incident that occurred after the Battle of Legnica in modern-day Poland, where, upon his victory, he ordered that the ears of each of the enemy's corpses be cut off. Let's pause so you understand the magnitude of this. His soldiers had to cut off the ears of the corpses of the enemies one after the other. None were left untouched, and they were all packed in large sacks, 9 in total, all filled to the brim. This is insane! There is even another record where he was said to have built a pyramid with 70,000 to 90,000 skulls. That's like the population of a whole country, all wiped out in a single battle. Nothing spells horror more than this. Guess why he did this? To send a clear message to other cities and regions that resistance would not be tolerated while also instilling fear in them. Number 11. The most heartbreaking moment for Genghis. What if we told you that behind the fierceness of Genghis was a boy who valued relationships? A boy who knew what friendships meant and was willing to do anything to preserve it, even if it meant relaxing his rules or brutality a bit. After the assassination of his father, this would be the most heartbreaking moment for Genghis. He had a friend named Jamuka. They were so close that their bond was like that of brothers. But as they grew older, their dreams and ambitions started to diverge. While Genghis Khan wanted to unite all the Mongolian tribes under his leadership and create a powerful empire, Jamuka aspired to become the supreme ruler himself. These differing visions led to a serious rivalry between them, and eventually they parted ways. In an unexpected turn of events, they found themselves engaged in a battle against each other in 1201, and as usual, Genghis emerged victorious. In despair, Jamuka fled with his remaining forces, with Genghis engaging him in a pursuit that lasted for several years, until which Jamuka was finally captured by his old friend. Here's where it gets really interesting. Instead of seeking revenge against Jamuka, Genghis Khan offered to reunite with him in his words, "Let us be companions. Now that we are joined together once again, we should remind each other of the things we have forgotten, wake each other from our sleep. Even when you went away and were apart from me, you were still my lucky, blessed sword brother. Surely in the days of killing and being killed, the pit of your stomach and your heart longed for me. Surely in the days of slaying and being slain, your breast and your heart longed for me." These words moved Jamuka, anyone who heard this would be. However, recognizing that two emperors couldn't coexist, Jamuka declined the offer and requested a noble death. In honor of the bond they once shared, Genghis granted Jamuka's request, executed him by breaking his back without shedding any blood, as spilling blood was considered dishonorable in Mongol culture. As a final tribute, Genghis buried Jamuka with the golden sash they had exchanged many years before. Number 10. Genghis Khan's early days. Just so you know, Genghis Khan's chaotic life right from a young age played a huge role in who he eventually became. Despite being born holding a clot of blood and having a divine ancestry with Grey Wolf being his first ancestor, blessed with a heavenly destiny, his early years were full of sad events. When he was just 9 years old, his father was poisoned by a group of Tatars, another nomadic people. Following this tragedy, his mother Holun and her children were deemed too weak to lead, and so were abandoned. Right before them, life took a turn for the worse. They were banished from their land and became so poor that they had to survive on roots and fish. It must have been challenging, to say the least. However, amidst the hardships, Genghis Khan's extraordinary power of attraction helped him attract followers, a virtue that proved to be a game-changer on several occasions. For instance, one time when he was captured and imprisoned by the Taityut. While still there, an opportunity presented itself. One fateful night, as the Taityut were feasting, Genghis Khan, with a strike from his wooden collar, knocked down the sentry and escaped. He had not escaped for too long when they noticed he was nowhere to be found, and immediately a search party was organized for him. Eventually, he was found by one of the people who captured him, but instead of turning him in, this rival was so impressed by the fire in Genghis Khan's eyes that he risked his own life to help him escape. Number 9. Genghis Khan's eye for talents. No matter how much we talk about Khan's smartness, we just can't get our fill of it because every move he makes causes us to wonder if he is truly a man or a god. Khan was not just smart, he was wise with a keen eye for talent. He was a master at sighting opportunities and grabbing them instantly. And yes, it always paid off because that is the only way he remained unconquerable. During a battle in 1204, a soldier named Zurgadai found himself face-to-face with Genghis Khan and his elite troops. In the heat of the fight, Zurgadai's arrow struck Khan right in the neck. Now you would expect such a severe injury to stop anyone in their tracks, but not Genghis Khan. After the battle, Zurgadai was among the captured soldiers. Then the unexpected happened. Genghis Khan asked for the person who had wounded his horse's neck to step forward. He may have used the word horse to maintain his pride and not reveal the extent of his injury. Judging by Khan's previous history of brutality, you'll assume that to be the end of the road for Zurgadai, right? With bravery, Zurgadai admitted that he was the one who struck Khan in the neck. He even told the Khan that he had every right to kill him on the spot, adding that if Khan spared his life, he would serve him with unwavering loyalty. Now this sounds like someone who may have known about Khan's practice of giving captives the choice to join his army or face execution. As someone who saw potential in the archer, Genghis accepted Zurgadai's offer to serve and immediately gave Zurgadai a new name, Jebe, meaning arrow or rust in Mongolian. Jebe quickly rose through the ranks, and in just 3 years, he became one of Genghis Khan's top generals and commanded the critical left army wing in the 1211 Jin invasion, and even held a position of authority equivalent to a third-tier governor and commanded elite troops in Genghis Khan's army, all because of his remarkable achievements in battle. Number 8. Genghis Khan's use of enemies as body shields. Another strategy that Genghis Khan and his Mongol army employed was known as Kharash, which involved using captured civilians, including women and children, as human shields. Here's how it worked. He would gather these unfortunate captives, arm them with light weapons like spears or bows, and position them tightly together. Then, at sword point, they would be forced to form a human shield to protect the Mongols as they advanced into battle. And so, at the battlefront, these Mongols safely hidden these poor civilians would take advantage of the situation by using their superior horsemanship and archery skills to outmaneuver and overpower their opponents. At this point, the defenders already in a dilemma would have no other option but to surrender, offering up resources and wealth as a sign of submission to the Mongols, which would be a hard slap on their faces. Number 7. Khan's entrepreneurial mind. Shifting from his military exploits, let's take a moment to appreciate Genghis's innovative mind, especially considering he never attended a formal school. One of the highlights of Khan's administration was the introduction of several societal innovations that were ahead of their time. For instance, he implemented a parole system and even came up with the concept of the first credit card, idea of paper currency, and even invented the first international postal system with centers scattered all over the area and new horses ready to be embark on a journey with the messenger to any part of the world, whatever the distance, just to make sure messages would be sent through. He also made attempts to develop a universal alphabet and introduced the idea of a global paper currency. During Khan's reign, the Mongols transitioned from being military conquerors to becoming the world's first commercial powerhouse, which they achieved by establishing extensive trade routes across the globe and leveraging new technologies and goods which kept them ahead of their competitors. Number 6. Khan's rule of no images of him. This has to be the weirdest thing about Khan. Do you know that until after his death there was no image or paintings about him? For a leader with such a record, that's unusual, right? It's said that he prohibited artists from making images or sculptures in his likeness. Legend has it that the primary reason behind this prohibition was to maintain an air of mystery in his persona. By denying artists the opportunity to create likenesses of him, he ensured that his appearance remained shrouded in secrecy. This added an element of fear and respect among his subjects and adversaries alike. Some argue that, as a nomadic leader, Genghis Khan may have prioritized more practical concerns over the creation of artistic depictions of himself, like managing his vast empire and conducting military campaigns. While these reasons offer some explanations, the true motivations behind Genghis Khan's prohibition of his visual representations remain uncertain. Number 5. Genghis's false retreat. Another of Genghis Khan's most effective military strategies as a master in the act was the act of false retreat, a clever maneuver that involved withdrawing his forces, making his enemies believe they had the upper hand, which was all part of a bigger plan. Just like a tiger who is patiently waiting to pounce on its prey, they would lure them into a false sense of victory, only to regroup and launch a devastating counterattack. One famous example was during the Battle of Yehuling in 1232, where Genghis faced the Western Shia dynasty with his outnumbered and outgunned Mongol forces. Despite the odds stacked against him, Khan ordered a retreat, tempting the enemy to pursue them relentlessly, which worked. As the enemy forces exhausted themselves in the chase, the Mongols seized the opportunity to strike back, defeating the Western Shia army and seizing control of their territory. Number 4. Genghis Khan's feud with his half-brother. Let's talk about Bektir, Genghis Khan's half-brother from their father's previous marriage. While Genghis Khan achieved great success as a leader, Bektir didn't quite reach the same level of political or military accomplishments, though he did hold a position of authority within Mongol society. According to historical accounts, which supposedly happened around 1185 when both brothers were still quite young, during a hunting expedition, they had a serious dispute over food. So, this is what happened. Genghis Khan and his brother went hunting when Khan's hunting dogs killed a wild boar that Bektir had been chasing. According to the custom of the time, the person who initiated the chase was entitled to the game. However, Genghis Khan decided to claim the kill for himself, which didn't sit well with Bektir. This led to a heated argument between the two brothers. Some versions of the story say Genghis Khan accused Bektir of trying to steal the boar from him, which was seen as a direct challenge to his authority, while another says that Genghis Khan purposely provoked the confrontation by making false accusations against Bektir. Regardless of the exact details, things escalated to a point where Genghis had to execute Bektir. Number 3. Genghis, the defender of religions. One of the remarkable things about Genghis Khan was his approach to religion. Unlike many conquerors of his time, he didn't impose a strict religious code or try to force people to convert to a specific faith. Instead, he believed in religious freedom and allowed people in his empire to practice their own beliefs. Genghis understood that religion played a crucial role in maintaining social order and stability, especially in diverse populations. He recognized the importance of allowing people to freely worship and exchange ideas, and so while he followed Mongolian shamanism, he respected and valued the guidance of different religions. He surrounded himself with advisors from various religious backgrounds, like Buddhist monks, Muslim scholars, and Christian missionaries, and went even further to protect religious institutions and their leaders by issuing decrees that safeguarded places of worship. The sweetest part is that these places were given special privileges and were exempted from paying taxes. Though there are some claims that Genghis Khan placed restrictions on certain religious practices, such as circumcision for Jews and the consumption of certain meats for Muslims, when considering his overall approach to religious tolerance, it's clear that he was on the right track, which explains how he earned the title, Defender of Religions. Number 2. The Mogollon Constitution. Genghis Khan, the founder, created a legal code known as the Yasa, also called the Yasa or Iyasa, which was a set of laws that covered various aspects of Mongol society, such as governance, military organization, social structure, and religious practices. The primary objectives of the Yasa were threefold: to ensure obedience to himself, to bring together the nomadic clans of the Mongols, to promote a sense of unity among them, and to serve as a deterrent against unlawful behavior. Some of the punishments outlined were indeed harsh, like the one which stated that adultery, regardless of marital status, could result in death, and bankruptcy was a punishable offense. However, amidst these strict rules, the Yasa also demonstrated compassion and fairness by recognizing children born to concubines as legitimate and ensuring they received their rightful share of their father's inheritance. Number 1. Khan's burial. Genghis Khan, known for his brutality, maintained his fierce reputation even in his final days. Before his death, which was supposedly caused by a horse-riding injury, he made specific burial requests. He wanted to be laid to rest without any markings or signs indicating his grave. During his funeral, an estimated 30,000 people who were unfortunate to see where he was to be laid to rest met their end. As if that wasn't enough, Khan's traveling escorts, who accompanied him to his final resting place, ended the lives of even with his army to ensure the secret remained intact. You'd think that was all, but no. They had a wish to fulfill, so upon reaching the destination, the escorts rode horses over the burial grounds, deliberately covering any signs or markings that would suggest something was done there. In a final act of loyalty, Khan's escorts took their own lives, taking the knowledge of their leader's burial place with them. The precise location of Genghis Khan's tomb remains unknown. Thank you for joining us in this expository on Genghis's wired life on Earth. Want to know more about great men who made a mark in history? Subscribe to this channel and turn on your notification.